Welcome to At Issue. Thank you so much for being with us again. My name is H. Wayne Wilson, and I have a book that a lot of Peorians and Central Illinoisans are talking about. The book is called Don't Shoot. It's actually a longer title than that, but we're going to refer to it as Don't Shoot. It is fully One Man, a Street Fellowship, and the End of Violence in Inner City America. And to talk about the book, we have with us the Chief of Police for the City of Peoria, Steve Settingsgard. Thank you so much for being with us, Chief.
You're welcome.
And the Mayor of Peoria, Jim Ardis, is also with us. Mayor, let's start with you. What was the driving force? Why did we pick Don't Shoot? What was your concern to begin with?
Well, the concern obviously was increased gun crime in the city of Peoria. What brought this Don't Shoot book to us was our Assistant U.S. Attorney, Tate Chambers, who was on loan to the Department of Justice for several years. Tate actually had the opportunity to see firsthand a lot of different programs that Department of Justice was using around the country. And this is one, when he came back to Peoria, that he brought to us, to the chief and I and the sheriff, and we had a meeting, and it was recommended that we look more into this David Kennedy's focused deterrence model, and so we took off from there.
You've been to several different conferences where they've talked about the effects of the book. Several communities have had this in place for more than 10 years. What's the general feeling as to its successfulness?
You know, some cities have had great success and others have failed at it. Those that are very successful, they have been very dogged about their approach, and they stay with it. And I just returned from a workshop on it, and cities like High Point, North Carolina, Boston, Massachusetts, cities that understand that this is not a cure for gun violence. It is a treatment that works as long as you keep applying it. And some cities have made the mistake of having successes early on and then moving away and moving on to some other thing, and then watch as the gun violence has creeped up. We've seen from many examples, though, that if it's done right, if you have all the team players are on board, and we do in Peoria, that it can have a great impact on gun violence.
When you say team players, who are we talking about?
It's important that the U.S. Attorney and the state's attorney be on the same page. Some communities that doesn't happen, and that's a problem when you're trying to employ this strategy. And not a problem here. Our U.S. Attorney, our state's attorney are completely on board and on the same page. Sheriff and chief have to be working together. Backing of the mayor's office and the council, all of that's important. Everybody has to commit, I believe, to saying this is our strategy. This is where we're going in the law enforcement community. We're going to stay with this for as long as it takes to be successful.
What role does the community play?
Well, I think the community's role is, number one, it's just to understand what the strategy is. They can't hardly be supportive if they don't understand what the strategy is, which is why we were able to work with Commonplace in the library to actually utilize the book as their Peoria Reads project last year. But even for, which really is the majority of the citizens that live in the city of Peoria, aren't living in a neighborhood where this is a huge problem. It's isolated, it's fairly concentrated in a couple specific areas. But regardless of that, every Peorian is impacted by gun violence in the community, whether it's just from a potential safety issue, whether it's property values, our ability to attract new business into our community. So it's important for the whole community to embrace it and employ it. And frankly, this effort was brought about because our community, the moral voice in our community said, these gun crimes in this community have got to stop. We want you to do something about it.
The part of the title is The End of Violence in Inner City America. The end of violence. That sounds like a pretty lofty goal. Does that bother you that people might misinterpret that to say, oh, we're going to do this and all of a sudden everything's okay now?
Well, I think that people are realistic enough to know that I don't think there's ever going to be any such thing as saying it's over, it's never going to happen again. But David Kennedy's research over decades has shown that adherence to the program, and as the chief said, staying with it over time, you can definitely, it's sustainable. It's something that the community, if they engage in it and they stay focused on it, it's something that will have a long-lasting, long-term impact on reducing gun crime.
Let's talk about some specifics of what's been happening. You're early in this program, obviously, and you've formed a specific, is it a 16-member team?
We have we've created what we call a target offender unit, and it essentially was a merger of our former street crimes and our vice and narcotics unit, and their mission is to work our don't shoot strategy, and that employs a variety of methods. It will employ drug work as we used to do. It will employ some of the old tactics of our street crimes unit, but our goal now is, and maybe the most succinct way for me to put it is rather than chasing drug dealers who were sometimes violent, we now are pursuing violent people who sometimes happen to be drug dealers as well. We're still doing drug work. We're still doing street work. We're still doing sometimes saturation patrols in a particular neighborhood, but our focus is violent groups.
Is it fair to characterize this as we're going to go after everything you do until the gunplay stops?
It's fair to characterize that as it relates to a targeted group. When we've identified a group in Peoria that is what we call either the first or the worst, the first to commit a murder, or the worst gang that rises to the surface is the most violent in Peoria, and they become under a laser focus of the law enforcement group in Peoria, then we attack everything they do. We go for big crimes, we go for small ordinances, offenses. We essentially commit as much resources as we can to that specific group, sending a message to all the other groups around the city that this is the outcome. If you decide not to put your guns down, if you decide that you're going to continue with business as usual, our business will not be as usual. We will focus on you very specifically.
So how is this different in terms of past operations to current operations when, and using me as an example, I commit a crime using a gun? You would come after me before. You're going to come after me now. How's it different?
Correct. In the past, before we employed this strategy, if you committed a shooting with a gun, we would come after you. And when we identified you and arrested you and prosecuted you, we were done with that case, and we moved on. In the new strategy, we don't stop with you. If you're part of a violent group or a violent gang in the city, and you commit a gun crime, we still arrest you and prosecute you, but we go after your friends, and we go after the guys that you're running with, who are also involved in other criminal activity. And we apply all the forces of law enforcement upon that group. So it reaches out just beyond the shooter or the shooter and the person who was with them at the time of the shooting. We punish, if punish is the right word, we apply that pressure to everybody in the group, regardless of who pulled the trigger, or regardless of whether they were present or not at the time.
And this is primarily with gangs, can we say that?
Gangs are violent groups. The two things are kind of synonymous.
And you went after Bomb Squad first. Is there going to be other gangs that you're going to go after?
Yes.
Depending on how they operate.
Yes. And there's no question a Bomb Squad will not be the only or the last group that we target. There are other groups in Peoria that are working, and there's just no doubt that one of them is going to step up as the first or the worst.
What have you heard so far? And I understand we're very early in this. In terms of what the expectations of the citizenry are and how they're receiving this so far.
Well, the expectation is that it's going to have the impact that we want it to have. I think our citizens understand that, again, it's not going to be completely eliminated. Most of the people that I've talked to so far here in the first few months, I'd probably categorize it as cautiously skeptic, optimistic that it will be successful. But people, they want they want to understand it more, and they want to see if it's going to succeed long term. They obviously want it to, but they're, people have a tendency to think that this is the law enforcement flavor of the month. This is the strategy they're going to employ for this month or for this, next quarter or 6 months. And again, as part of the educational process that Kennedy talks about in his book, and that the Chief and I and others talk about in the community, is High Point, North Carolina has used this strategy effectively for over 15 years. So it is sustainable, and we just want people to know that it's something, it's a long-term strategy. It's not a 3-month strategy or a 6-month strategy or even a year strategy.
Let's look at High Point violent crime. This 1990 to 2011, a 21-year spread. Violent crime is down 45% during that period of time. But one of the things that I looked at their website, and there are spikes, but in general, it's a downward trend. But there is that 1 year where oops, and then it starts to go down again, and then there's an oops. Is that what we anticipated? Are we seeing that across the nation?
That is that's what we expect to see in Peoria, and that's what other cities see. That you see spikes. Violent crime will rise, and you suppress it. Violent crime will rise, you suppress it. And I guess the issue is whether or not your spikes are up here or your spikes are here. And part of the strategy is we're moving through this. We're learning. We don't sit and wait for it to get this high before we employ the strategy and do a call-in. As these little rises occur, we take proactive measures to squash that and keep those fluctuations at a lower level.
For the record, the personal crime rate in High Point during that same period of time was up 8%, but we also need to point out that High Point is a growing community. It's grown about 15,000 in population, from about 90,000 to 105,000 during that period of time. Let's talk about call-in. You mentioned call-in. I don't know that everybody is familiar with that term. What is a call-in?
For us in Peoria, what happened in December is, prior to December 10th call-in, we targeted the bomb squad in Peoria. And to be clear, targeting the gang like the bomb squad doesn't mean dismantling a gang. Doesn't mean that the gang didn't exist on December 11th. It still exists. What we did was we targeted the key players in the gang. We were able to build successful federal charges against many of them. Others we were able to apply state charges to, even traffic offenses, etc. Based on our prosecution of the bomb squad members, we called in representatives of other groups and other gangs around the city, and we brought them together in a room and we delivered a message. And when they walked in the room, around the room, they saw posters of bomb squad members that had been arrested and were facing prosecution, many federal. And the message was, this is what happened to the bomb squad when we focused our efforts on that particular group, and you don't want your group to be next. And the message was very clear that we, the entire law enforcement community in Peoria, including the feds, we will laser focus on your group if you rise to that level, and this is your outcome. And the community got up and spoke about the impact of violence. There were 28 men in the room. All 28 were either on probation or parole. All 28 had been identified as being involved in criminal gangs or very dangerous groups, and all were given the same message. Community said, we're tired of it, we've had enough. Mothers of homicide victims spoke to them and said, this is what you've done to my family. There was a message of hope at the end that if you want help, we will help you. And this is how we will help you. We can't guarantee you anything. We can't guarantee you a job, but we will help you find the resources to change your life. And the big part of that was, this wasn't just meant for those 28 men. The idea was, to those 28, you take this back. Take this back to your group and share this, that it's a new day in Peoria, that if you as a group continue to run with guns and you continue to pull triggers, at the next call-in, it'll be your pictures up on this wall.
Krista McCavitt is the coordinator of the call-in process. What does she offer to these individuals that decide to come in?
Well, the chief, it actually, you know, is the overall coordinator of this. But what I can tell you from my level is that Krista is the person that has direct contact with a lot of the social service agents and agencies in Peoria that have reached out to help these folks, whether it's job training, whether it's classroom instruction, GED, anything along those lines. Krista is the direct link. And what was really interesting at the call-in, we didn't just say, we want you guys to put your guns down and turn yourself straight and go get a job. It was, Krista said, we have these social service agencies in Peoria that are willing to help you. It wasn't an if then. It wasn't if you put the guns down, then we guarantee you a job or anything like that. But it's if you come to us for help, we want to help you. And it's not call this number and leave a message. It was, here's my phone number. Give me a call. Krista's phone number. And she will have and has had direct contact with those people to put them in touch with where they need to go to get what they need.
How, it's early in Peoria, but other communities have used the call-in concept.
Yes.
How successful has that been?
That's really the key component, and is very successful in places like High Point. Again, High Point, when we went out to visit High Point, and they said that Peoria was very much like their city 15 years ago. You know, 15, 16, 17 murders per year. Now they're averaging 4, 5, sometimes 3. And they're much more consistently in the single digits when they used to be in the upper teens. They're adamant that it was this strategy that's changed the picture in High Point. And the call-in's a key component of the strategy. It's really how we deliver the message. Another popular modification of this that many cities have adopted now too is in between these call-ins where you bring in large groups of young men, they do what they call custom notifications where they speak to small groups. Might be one guy, might be 2, might be 3. That when you realize they're hot, if we get evidence that there was a shooting last night and our evidence tells us that it was likely a particular group involved, it may not rise to the level of a call-in like we saw on December 10th, but we don't wait for it to get that bad. We go to 2 or 3 of those folks that are involved in that group, separate from the investigation, separate from our attempts to identify and prosecute. But we reach out and we say, this has got to stop, and we deliver that same message. Don't know what's going on here, don't know who's beefing with who, but there cannot be a retaliation. We go to a group. Shooters group, victims group, same message. This is going to stop today. If this continues, we will bring every resource we have in here.
You mentioned beefing. Are we finding that beefs are really what the source of these shootings are all about? Is that commonplace?
It is common. It's, you know, it's not like the perception we've had for many years that most of these, you know, gang violence incidents are related to the classic, you know, drug turf wars or, you know, kind of high-end battles between 2 particular groups. They often start with very small personal issues, and quite frequently it's some love triangle situation. It's some gal seeing 2 different guys, or some guy seeing 2 different gals, and somebody learns of someone being unfaithful, and next thing you know, there's a violent act which precipitates retaliatory violent acts, and then guns come out to play. And that's a frequent scenario for us.
One of the things I found interesting in the book that David Kennedy mentioned was that gangs have 2 things that I really hadn't assumed. They have fear. These people have fear. And they also don't understand, to some degree, they don't understand the penalties that are involved, the harshness especially, and that's why federal was brought into this. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You know, there's a lot less leeway in the federal judicial system for any type of plea bargaining or, you know, working their penalties down, and they know that. They really cringe when they find out that federal charges are involved with a lot of the things that we're trying to focus on with these guys.
I want to talk about Chicago. we keep talking about what Boston is a focal point in the book, High Point is a success, and there have been some failures. So Chicago has implemented this in, I think, 4 of their districts, is that correct?
Correct.
And no one's going to run around saying Chicago is successful at eliminating gunplay. More than 500 murders last year, 42 through January 29th, pretty high numbers. So is Don't Shoot, or at least the Chicago method of Don't Shoot, is it having an impact up there?
I spoke with folks from Chicago, the Chicago Project last week, and they have implemented in 4 of their 22 police districts, and quite frankly, it's not enough. They have indicated to me that the high-profile shootings that we're reading about, the increase in gun violence, is not occurring in the areas where the strategy is deployed. That they're seeing a lot of success in those districts where they've deployed this strategy, but they've only deployed it in a very small piece of Chicago. And I think they are experimenting with other things in other districts. You know, in Chicago, a city the size of Chicago is just a different ballgame. It's, you know, it has some difficulties in employing a strategy like this. In Peoria, a city the size of Peoria, we can do this citywide. And citywide, you know, not every square mile of Peoria has a problem with gang or group violence, but we can employ this citywide. In Chicago, it really has to be done piece at a time, and they really can't. It's really difficult, if not impossible, to roll it out and cover the length and breadth of the issue in Chicago. I don't know where they're going to go, if they're going to expand it up there, but again, the message I got last week was, it's had success in Chicago, but it just is only employed in a very small percentage of the area.
Early numbers comparing January 1st to January 28th in Peoria compared to the same period a year ago. Most areas of violent crime are down significantly. Shots fired calls, 25% down. Aggravated battery with a firearm, down 14%. Felon in possession of a firearm, down 25%. There are a couple that are up a little bit. But the early indication is success. Does that concern you that people might say, oh, and you'll excuse the use of the term, but we found the silver bullet?
Mm-hmm. I don't think that any of us are going to rush to a conclusion that those reductions in some of those areas are necessarily directly because of the Don't Shoot initiative. I think it might be, it's probably too early to tell. I would like to think that part of that is because of what we're starting to do in the community, and I don't think that the community is necessarily going to have an expectation that you're always going to see that, as we've already discussed. There's going to be blips in the road.
You of course always want to show success, and so out came Jerome Jones, an interview. He was known as Tony at the time on Channel 25. Did an interview, and as a matter of fact, at the time of the interview, he had already committed another violent crime. He beat up an older man. A problem with Jerome Jones? I mean, obviously you didn't want to trot him out if you had known that prior to then.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't have, obviously. Jerome Jones is a odd case, and it's disappointing in one respect that he was a hopeful for us. He was our best case. In the short run we've had so far, he was our best case of someone who came in right after the call and wanted a lot of help and seemed very, very sincere and very committed to changing his life. And we had connected him with several opportunities to make change. He was attending parenting classes, GED classes, etc. And he really was staying with the program for the short time he was in it. At the same time, he was allegedly involved in this kidnapping robbery case, and what I've seen and what I've learned, particularly last week, just heard the same thing, that's not unusual. And actually, I was told by David Kennedy last week that many times what they've seen around the country is those that come in first and come in hard after a call-in, who just seem driven and committed to wanting to change, those are the folks that are likely to burn out quick and fail fast. And that's what we saw in this case. Very
briefly, Mayor, we're in this for the long haul.
Absolutely.
That was as brief as I could possibly ask for. And thank you so much to both of you. Police Chief Steve Settingsgard, City of Peoria, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
And Mayor Jim Ardis, as always, thank you for joining
Thanks,
us on that issue.
Thank you.
We'll be back, 2 shows of interest in the next 2 weeks. A week from now, we're going to be visiting with Congressman Aaron Schock, and in 2 weeks, a related topic to this one. We're going to be talking about violent crime. So join us for the next 2 At Issues right here. Thanks for joining us.